And we're back on your screens. This is still the AM show. It's time now for us to talk about the one student, one laptop or one tablet policy that the government of Ghana launched yesterday, dubbed the Ghana Smart Schools. Now, this policy seeks to leverage technology to make academic work easier in senior high schools. But there's been a number of concerns raised by public people, stakeholders, political party affiliates, and all that on whether this is the right time and what other issues there are to discuss on this topic. My guest for this conversation, James Kofi Annan, who's NDC parliamentary candidate for Ifutu. We'd also hear from Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apaak, and President of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Reverend Dr. Isaac Owusu. Let me start from the NDC parliamentary candidate, James Kofi Annan. We've heard you say you vented your spleen on this particular policy. Give me a sense of where your thoughts are on this one student, one tablet project.
Okay, thank you, and I will say good morning to your viewers and listeners. I believe that ordinarily, if government is providing laptops for students, that should be a good news, and for us to embrace it. But unfortunately, this policy has not been thought through properly. It's an unsustainable populist policy that came with all the fanfares yesterday, and you could see that it was just basically to catch the headlines and make political capital out of the project, unfortunately. Now, we have about 700 secondary schools, that's senior high schools in this country. And each school has a number of students. You are doing 30 schools and giving them laptops. How many of the students in those 30 schools can you give laptops to? The question is, would everyone benefit from the laptop in those particular schools that you have selected? And with these days of mounting electricity bills on the schools where government owes over 45 million Ghana cedis of electricity bill, how are we planning to pay the electricity bills of those schools? But that is just a low-hanging fruit. That's just by the way. Let us look at the project holistically. When you have provided laptops for these few students, they go to the dormitories or they go home with the individual laptops. What becomes of the rest of the schools where you have not distributed laptops to the students and where they don't have laboratories, computer labs, or even where they have computer labs but do not have computers in those schools? My argument is that set up computer labs in all the schools or retool the computer labs of the existing schools where the computer labs have their computers broken down. Distribute these laptops or computers to those schools so that all the children or all the students in the various schools will benefit equally. So that it doesn't become like some students have, other students don't have. We all know, I have a school I'm running, I have a computer lab, there's a timetable attached to the computer lab. Each student has an opportunity to come and learn. That is what we're talking about. And my sister, I did not just speak to the media yesterday. It has taken me 3 months of going around 10 different regions, speaking to heads of senior high schools. I have sent you some of the evidence, the videos and the pictures. The heads of the various schools are saying that this project has come with lack of consultations with them and that they have more pressing needs, that if the government had engaged them, they would have made input and these computers would have come to benefit the schools more than they have done. You go to schools and the very computer lab that the schools will be using to train the children, it's not completed. It's been an abandoned project. There are so many abandoned projects. I've sent you some of the pictures that were started by the NDC administration. And since they left office, it has not been completed. We have dining halls that have been abandoned. We have assembly halls that have been abandoned, libraries that have been abandoned, so many projects that have been abandoned. And yet, just because of scoring political points, you hurriedly go in for a loan and procure laptops and call them smart schools.
Did you say they went in for a loan?
Well, my reading is that the company that was contracted,
KA Technologies, you mean?
Yes, to purchase the computers went for a loan. I think they said $35 million loan or so. I may be wrong. You may correct me if my reading is wrong, because I read in one of your networks. And you procure these computers and gave it to a few people.
Right.
So what I am saying is that, yes, the students need computers. They need to learn, because in this day and age, without computers, they cannot be, they cannot compete with other schools or other students elsewhere. So they need computers. But the question remains, have we gotten to a stage where we can provide each student with a laptop? And what about when the laptops break down? If the laptops are broken, are we going to replace them? What are the plans to replace those laptops? Or if the laptops are stolen, what are the plans to replace them? We are in operating secondary schools or senior high schools that are congested already. So these students taking the laptops to the congested dormitories. Have we thought through how water is going to pour on these computers? Or people are going to sit on other people's computers and get it broken? And how we are going to replace them? So this is a very flawed project right from the beginning. And I'm wondering and surprised why they call it smart schools. You're not giving the computers to the schools. You are giving the computers to the individuals.
Right.
So you are not making the schools smart. You are trying to make the children smart. But in doing so, you failed.
Mr. Kofi Annan, please hold for me. Let me bring in Dr. Clement Apaak, who's the Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Education Committee in the conversation. Dr. Clement Apaak, you've heard from Mr. Kofi Annan, and there's been a lot of issues raised about how teachers are currently on strike. There's talk about the quality of food that our senior high school students are eating, and even accommodation challenges among so many others. My question to you is this the right time to, jump on the bandwagon to follow in the fourth industrial revolution and distribute tablets to students? Is this what we really need in our education system right now?
Well, let me say good morning to your good self, to my compatriots on the panel as well. I wish the minister was part of this conversation. Because quite honestly, the question you have posed to me is a question that should be directed to the minister. I am a member of the NDC in Parliament, and I issued a statement yesterday exposing the attempt by this government to hoodwink Ghanaians into believing that they are fulfilling a manifesto promise. Our take on this is this. The NDC, in principle, is not opposed to the provision of tablets with educational content to enhance the learning experience. In fact, in our 2020 manifesto, on page 70, under education, we indicated that we will provide free tablets with educational content to teachers and students to enhance teaching and learning. And we made that proposal on the back of the experiences from COVID and how, in the wake of the pandemic, teaching and learning was grounded. The current government in its manifesto for 2020, on page 57, under promises, promise number 123, to do with ICT, indicated to Ghanaians that discussions were ongoing towards the distribution of tablets to junior high school and secondary school students. That was the manifesto promise. So we, the NDC in Parliament, are coming to this first based on the manifesto promise that the NPP made, and also querying the timing of the rollout of this policy and asking questions with regards to the policy guidance or the policy document for the implementation of what the president launched yesterday. First of all, if we are to take the NPP manifesto, which is very important, because the NPP and what the president did in the presence of the flag bearer of the NPP, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is to seek to tell Ghanaians that the NPP has fulfilled a manifesto promise and therefore deserves another opportunity to continue to govern this country, which is not the truth. Strictly speaking, government should have been telling us, Ghanaians, that it has made provision to procure and pay for about 2.4 million tablets and not 1.3 million tablets. Well, we have a student population in the secondary school system, per documents presented to the Education Committee by both the Ministry and Ghana Education Service, of 1,331,219 students in secondary school. And for junior high schools, we have slightly above 1.4 million. So if we are to hold Akufo-Addo and Bawumia and the NPP to strict proof, the number of tablets that should have been procured and distributed even before today should be in excess of 2 million. But be it as it may, they have decided to forget about the other side of the promise, which is to provide tablets to junior high school students. And they are focused on senior high school students. We have 1.3 million senior high school students.
Well, Dr. Apaak. Hello, Dr. Apaak, if you're still with me. Yesterday, during the launch, they mentioned that this was the first phase of it. But what I want to probe now, is it a case of the timing that's the point of contention? If this had been done, say, 4 years ago, would you have the same issues, the same concerns that you're raising now?
In the budget or the Get Farm formula to procure the additional tablets. So there's nothing like a first phase because there is no financial provision to procure any additional tablets. Where are they going to get the money? They have not told us where they are going to get the money. And provision has not been made in the last budget of Akufo-Addo. Neither has provision been made in the 2024 Get Farm formula, which is the last under this government. So the president and his government should not take us for granted. You can't just tell us that you are going to distribute 1.3 million tablets before the end of the year, and that this is the first phase, when you have not made provision for that. We wouldn't buy that today, we wouldn't buy that tomorrow, and we will continue to expose this MPP government for being insincere for being incapable of fulfilling his promises and constantly trying to hoodwink Ghanaians into giving them credit for what they have failed to do. And that is exactly what is happening.
Right.
Look, my sister, even with the 450,000 pieces that have been procured and paid for through Get Fund, which comes to about 1.4 billion plus, when you add the 740 million we approved in the 2023 Get Fund formula as the first tranche of the payment for this 450,000 pieces, and you add this year's approved 747,500,000 for the pieces that we have paid for. You ask yourself, what is the criteria by which 450,000 out of 1.3 million students are going to be selected to benefit from these laptops?
Right. Dr. Apaak, please hold for me. Let me bring back Mr. Kofi Annan into the conversation at this point. Now, Mr. Kofi Annan, you talked about sustainability and the timing. I mean, the convenience of the timing is not lost on us. But the issue of the fourth industrial revolution and how technology now determines the way we move, how we communicate with each other and all that. The policy in itself, would you say that it's bad? Is that what you're saying? We lost Kofi Annan. But we also have the PRO for Ghana Education, the Ministry of Education, Mr. Kwesi Kwarteng, on the line. Mr. Kwesi Kwarteng, thanks for joining the conversation. I was asking Dr. Apaak that in the face of all these challenges that we are currently facing when it comes to the education sector, teachers are on strike, there's issues on quality of food and infrastructure and all that. Is this what we need at this point? And the convenience of the timing, how do you respond to that?
I'm not sure the logic is that because there are challenges, all other sectors of the economy should be closed. Like yesterday when we interacted, you cannot say that because the road that leads to my house has some potholes. So because of that, government should not build the motorway or any other route. I mean, that logic will not suffice, particularly within the 21st century, the fourth industrial revolution, where our students have to be within the digital space and also be able to learn what the rest of the world are learning so that we'll be able to achieve some level of socio-economic transformation. So yes, all the challenges within the education sector, like any other challenges, can be fixed at the same time. And it is not, you do not necessarily have to itemize the challenges that confront us as people and say that you are solving this and you finish it. If you are not very careful, by the time you finish solving the other one, the other challenge will be more greater and you need more effort to solve it.
Okay, now Dr. Apaak was just saying that in your manifesto, in the NPP manifesto, you made provision for both junior high school and senior high schools. And so if you're now saying that you're providing one tablet to one student only in senior high schools, then it still qualifies as unfulfilled promises. What would be your reaction to that?
Dr. Apaak should also be bold to also mention two social intervention policies by the NDP administration. But for us in the Ministry of Education, this is what is most important. What is most important is that at the basic school level too, they have also not been neglected. In the coming weeks, we are going to launch the Ghana Smart Classroom project. You know, this has to do with smart schools, and the smart schools are at the secondary school level. We've finished the installation of about more than 653 basic schools, fully finished smart classrooms with a state-of-art technological devices and equipment that we are also yet to launch. I'm sure in the coming weeks we invite you and we'll communicate even to the rest of Ghana.
Well, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Dr. Apaak, I'm sure you heard the PRO for the Ministry of Education.
Well, he has conveniently avoided your question with regards to their promise. He has also conveniently avoided the fact that government has only procured and paid for 450,000 pieces. Yet they are claiming that they are going to distribute 1.3 million tablets. Clearly, he has not given you a response as to where government is going to find the money and whether or not the money is available to buy additional tablets to ensure that all 1.3 million students in secondary school get the tablets. So we will leave that to the better judgment of Ghanaians.
Right.
But the point I was making was that even with the 450 pieces paid for out of the expected 1.3 million, what is the policy guideline as to how this program is going to be implemented, and what is going to be the criteria to be used to select which schools are going to benefit from what we know has been procured and paid for? And these are legitimate questions.
Yesterday, I posed that question to the Executive Director of St. and Dr. Ejabo, and he said that as we speak, all 30 schools have laptops in the schools, just not handed over to the students yet. So all the 450,000 laptops, according to him, have been distributed to the various schools. I thought I should chip that in because you were asking.
And what was the criteria of selecting those 30 schools? I am a member of the Education Committee. I am in leadership of the Education Committee. We have met with the minister. This issue has come up on the floor of Parliament. We posed the same question. The minister could not give us a response.
Right. Dr. Apaak, this is all time will allow us for, and hopefully we can pick up this conversation another time. Dr. Apaak is a deputy ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, and we also spoke to the PRO for the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Kwarteng, and the NDC parliamentary candidates for Efutu, James Kofi Annan. That's all for this segment, but later coming on, there's a staggering road accident statistics provided by the National Road Safety Authority, and they've reported an increase in road crashes during the first 2 months, that is January and February 2024. We'll bring you details and an in-depth analysis and conversation on this and how they plan to keep the citizens safe in this Easter. Stay with us. We'll be right back.